Hello again, Year 7 of Mansfield School. It is week 2 of term 5 and it is time for your next science lesson, the Earth topic, lesson 3. Last week I told you we are learning about the Earth because that's where we get our natural resources from, and we can then use chemistry to change natural resources into useful products and materials. We learned last week about the Earth's structure. Can you still remember? Pause the video and you can jot this down, or you can just think of it. What is the name of each part and its main feature? Pause the video now. Okay, I hope you're doing these properly and actually thinking of your answers rather than skipping straight to the answers. Really important for your learning to test your memory. But let's see if you're getting it right. Number 1 was the crust, thin layer split into plates floating on the mantle. Number 2, the mantle is made of liquid rock, magma, which slowly flows around. Number 3, the outer core is liquid iron and nickel. Number 4, the inner core is solid iron and nickel. In the second lesson last week, we started learning about the rocks in the Earth's crust, and we're going to do more on that today. Driving question for today: has the Earth's surface always looked the same? And again, we are going to be looking at igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic rocks, and this will give you a chance to practice again what we learned last time. So here we go. These oddly shaped mountains are found in Greece. And believe it or not, there are some people who live in little houses. The monks of Meteora have their monastery up on the top of these mountains. I find these mountains really interesting because you can see the old rock that has been worn away down below. Okay, so there is like literally millions of years worth of rock down in that column, and because the rest of it has been worn away, we can see what it was like. So mountains can get shaped by erosion. Erosion is when wind, water, or the sea can break rock down and carry the bits away. So the wind can carry out erosion. The sea, oceans can cause erosion, breaking down rocks and carrying the pieces away. Even glaciers, the ice in glaciers can cause erosion as well. We also said last lesson that rocks can get broken by weathering. And we're going to have another look at this today. Rocks get broken down by weathering, and there are 5 different ways in which that can happen. Okay, let's have a look at those 5 ways. Rocks can get weathered by plants, by animals, by acid rain, by frozen water getting into cracks and then freezing, and then expanding and then breaking the rock, and also repeated hot and cold conditions. Hot weather causes rocks to expand, cold weather causes them to contract. Repeating that over and over breaks the rock. Okay, so rocks can get broken by weathering or erosion, and weathering happens in these 5 ways. Hot and cold conditions, ice freezing in a crack in a rock, animals, plants, acid rain. Oh, not again. Right, yeah, I forgot about the sparkly sound effects. Right, but we're just going to race through this, okay, because we talked about this last time. And weathering breaks down the rocks into hills and valleys because the soft rock gets worn away first. But what this also helps to do is expose old rock. Okay, let's just click through this, right? So, oh, why did that go so fast? Right, now then, when weathering and erosion happens, it exposes older layers of rock. And actually, it turns out those old layers of rock can be millions of years old. Right, so old layers of rock can be revealed by weathering and by erosion. And when that old layer of rock gets exposed, we can look at the features of that rock. Is it in layers like sedimentary, crystals like igneous, distorted like metamorphic? So we can actually physically look at rocks from millions of years ago when weathering exposes them. We can measure their age, work out how old they are, look at their features to see how they were formed in the first place, and all of that gives us evidence as to what the Earth's crust must have been like millions of years ago. Okay, so the Earth's crust gets peeled back by weathering to expose older rock, and we can look at the age of the rock, look at its features, and it gives us clues, evidence as to what the Earth's crust was like millions of years ago. Okay, can you put that in your own words? How do we get evidence about rocks that were formed millions of years ago? Once again, you can say this verbally, talk it out loud, see if you can say it. That gives you a really good clue as to whether you understand it. Pause the video now. Okay, here we go. I hope you're actually doing this properly and trying to put it into your own words rather than just skipping ahead. But what did I say? Old layers of rock are revealed by weathering and erosion. We can measure the ages of the rock. We can look at their main features to tell us how they were formed, and all of that gives us evidence as to what the Earth's crust might have looked like millions of years ago. Okay, we've got 3 types of rock to try and remember from last lesson. Can you say which one is which? Pause the video and match the numbers and letters. Go for it. Okay, here we go with the answers. Number 1, sedimentary rock is formed by weathering, transportation, deposition, compression, and rock formation. Igneous rock is the one formed from hot magma, which cools down to form crystals, and metamorphic rock is the one formed by heat and pressure deep in the crust. It will have distorted crystals or layers. Right, now all of these rocks are mixed together in the crust. How did they get so mixed in the first place? Right, now we explain this using something called the rock cycle. So I'm going to take you through this diagram of how sedimentary rock can be changed into metamorphic, how metamorphic can be changed into igneous, and how igneous can be changed back into sedimentary rock. And all of these rocks end up jumbled up in the Earth's crust. It takes millions of years, but they can all be changed into each other. So let's go through how that works. Firstly, rocks on the surface get weathered. They can also get broken down by erosion. So weathering and erosion breaks down rocks. Whatever type of rock is at the surface will get weathered. Those small bits will be transported by rivers to the sea. They get deposited in layers and they get compressed together. So sedimentary rock gets formed at the surface. But then what can happen is the sedimentary rock can get pushed further into the crust by the movement of tectonic plates, and then the Earth's extreme heat and pressure can distort that rock, changing it into a new form, metamorphic. Okay, so metamorphic is formed deep in the crust through extreme heat and pressure, as we learned last lesson. But what can happen then is the heat at the bottom of the Earth's crust, where the mantle is, can melt that metamorphic rock into magma. So it can get melted down to form magma. If that magma then rises up through the Earth's crust, it can form igneous rock. If that magma cools down slowly inside the rock, it forms larger crystals, intrusive igneous rock. If magma gets all the way out through a volcano to the surface of the Earth, it cools down quickly, forming small crystals of extrusive igneous rock. But then that rock at the surface can be weathered, transported, deposited, compressed to form sedimentary rock. And sedimentary rock can be pushed down into the Earth's crust, so can igneous rock. Heat and pressure turns it back into metamorphic. Metamorphic can be melted to form magma. Magma can cool down to form igneous rock. It works in a cycle. Now this takes millions and millions of years, but any of these rocks can be changed into each other. Okay, and the end result of that is that the Earth's crust is a jumbled mixture of rock. All of the different types of rock are jumbled up together. In Bristol, where we are, there's quite a lot of sedimentary rock in the ground, but it's different in different places. And it takes millions of years, but all of the rocks can get jumbled up because any type of rock can be turned into another. And that is why the Earth's crust is made of a mixture of rock. Okay, but please remember it takes millions of years for this rock cycle to happen. But any type of rock can be changed into a different type of rock over millions of years. Okay, hinge question. Why is the Earth's crust made of a mixture of rock? Pause it, come up with your answer. A, B, C, or D. Go for it. Okay, and the correct answer is B. Over millions of years, any type of rock can be changed into a different type. Right, now there are 3 types of rock to try and remember that we learnt about last week and that we've mentioned again today. So we'll go, in fact, I'll put them all up on the screen at the same time and then you can pause the video and work your way through it. S, M, or I. Sedimentary, igneous, or metamorphic. Which one is which? Pause the video now. Okay, here we go. If it's in layers, it is sedimentary. If it's made of crystals, it is igneous. If it is distorted, it is metamorphic. Made from hot magma which cools down, igneous. Made deep in the crust from extreme heat and pressure, metamorphic. Made when bits of weathered rock are transported, deposited, and compressed, sedimentary. right? And then these three types of rock end up mixed in the ground because over millions of years, they can each be changed into a different type. Okay, on to the writing phase. Now, in order to do this successfully, you need to understand how the three types of rock are formed from last lesson. And I really, really want you to have a go at blue. This is the whole point of today's lesson, is the rock cycle. So try to keep orange, green, and yellow a lot shorter today so that you can really concentrate on using the information about how rocks are formed to put it into the rock cycle. So have a look at the sentence starters. Deliberately kept the first one shorter because I want you to go into more detail on the rock cycle. So weathering, when rocks get broken down, can you remember the 5 ways it happens? Why do these rocks get jumbled in the earth? Looking for a one sentence answer there, but use the sentence starter. How does this give us evidence about how rocks were formed millions of years ago? Think about how weathering strips back the layers of rock and give an example of how that might reveal how rocks were formed millions of years ago. So a little bit more detail there. But then this is the main thing for today's lesson, the rock cycle. I've numbered each step so that you can say what is happening at each step of the rock cycle. So put in your notes the rock cycle shows and then write something for each numbered box. Okay, I want every single person doing this lesson to do that today. Okay, pause the video, take as long as you need, keep orange, green, and yellow short, and go for more detail on the rock cycle, combining all that information together to get a complete picture of how the rocks get jumbled up in the earth. Pause the video, do your writing task now. Okay, we are about to do the answers. So I hope you've done this properly. Here we go. Right, answers. Yeah, remember to mark it. Remember to tick it if it's correct. And do remember to write in anything that you didn't think of. You're allowed to improve your answers. Driving question. Has the Earth's surface always looked the same? Weathering is when rocks get broken down into pieces. The 5 ways are plants, animals, acid rain, hot and cold weather, ice forming in cracks in the rock. Freeze thaw should be down with that one. Ice forming in cracks is called freeze thaw. The ice freezes, thaws, freezes again, and repeatedly that breaks the rock open. Next, Earth's crust is a mixture of different types of rock because over millions of years, each type of rock can be turned into another type of rock. Any type of rock can be changed into another, so over millions of years, a mixture is formed. Please do remember, it takes literally millions and millions of years for these rocks to get jumbled up. Yellow, a bit more detail here. Using understanding to explain the scenario in more detail, we can get evidence about how rocks were formed millions of years ago because rocks on the surface of the Earth get weathered and eroded, revealing the layers of rock underneath. We can measure the ages of those rocks and look at their main features, which tells us how they must have been formed millions of years ago. For example, if it was made of layers, it must have been made by transportation, deposition, compression as a sedimentary rock. If it is made of crystals, then igneous rock must have formed millions of years ago. If it is distorted, it must have been made originally by heat and pressure deep in the Earth's crust. Please remember that rocks can be brought higher or lower in the Earth's crust by the movement of tectonic plates. So over millions of years, they do get moved around. Right, rock cycle, the main event for this lesson. Number 1, existing rocks on the surface get weathered and eroded. Number 2, the pieces are transported to the sea. Number 3, pieces are deposited in layers and compressed to form sedimentary rock. Number 4, rock gets pushed deeper into the crust. The extreme heat and massive pressure makes them distort, forming metamorphic rock. Number 5, metamorphic rock, or any rock that gets pushed deeper into the crust, can be melted by the heat of the mantle to form magma. So number 5, rocks get melted to form magma. If that magma then rises up, number 6, the magma cools down. If it cools down inside the Earth, we call it intrusive, and it forms large crystals. Number 7, if the magma cools down outside the Earth, we call it extrusive, and it forms small crystals if it cools quickly. Then the whole process can begin again. Rocks at the surface get weathered, broken down, etc., etc. Okay, so over millions of years, any type of rock can be turned into a different type of rock, and we end up with a jumbled mixture of rocks in the Earth's crust. Okay, I hope you got on all right with that. Today I have achieved describe, because I could describe how weathering takes place. What are the 5 ways of weathering? Today I achieved explain, because I could explain why the Earth's crust is a mixture of rocks, okay, because any rock can be changed into another type. Today I achieved use, because I can explain how we get evidence of how rocks were formed millions of years ago. So if you understand that weathering exposes older layers, which we can measure the age of, look at their main features, use their main features to figure out how they were formed at that particular point in the Earth's history, which then gives us evidence about how the crust was formed, you have used your understanding to explain a situation. But hopefully, have you been able to combine together information about different types of rock to explain how the rock cycle shows three types of rock being interconverted over millions of years. So today I achieved combine because I can explain how three types of rock can be interconverted over millions of years in a rock cycle. And if you've done whatever you've managed to achieve in this lesson, whether it's explain or use or combine, whatever you feel your genuine achievement is, go and tell somebody, show them you've done their work properly. I think that's so important to actually let your family and whoever's at home see that you've done your work and put a good effort into it. Then they can be really pleased with you. And it's something really positive in the day if a teenager like yourself has sat down and actually done their schoolwork properly at home. That's something for everybody to feel really positive about. So please do share the good news that you've done your lesson properly. And remember, get back on Show My Homework and do the 10-question quiz, which should be easy now you've done the lesson. And well done again, Year 7. Hopefully this has helped to reinforce some of the learning from last week. Next lesson in lesson 4, we're going to do something slightly different on the Earth's atmosphere. So we'll see you again next time for lesson 4. Well done, Year 7. Bye-bye. Have a good day.